Hi friends, Dr. Nancy Trimble here, putting the power and knowledge of your health back in your hands. Today we're going to talk about bone broth. Bone broth, when you finish, will look like this. You'll have about 15 of these stacked in your freezer, so they'll be ready to grab every day, every other day for just a beverage or to put in soups or stews. And the reason why bone broth is so great is because it feeds your body without feeding any of the pathogens or bad bacteria that might be lurking. If you feed your body strengthens so you can fight off those bad guys. So it's easy. It does take a while. It takes a few hours to make, but you'll be glad that you did. And over time, as you feed your gut, your body will thank you. So there's a few things that you'll need. One is a very large pot. This is a 12-quart pot, and it doesn't have to be super special, just big, because you're going to put a lot of stuff in there with a lot of water. You want to do this often enough so you have good bone broth to drink or use in cooking for a while and not have to do it too often. The other thing you're going to need is some tongs and a large spoon. And you're going to need some large pots. These are just nesting bowls. Probably got them from a local store. And you're going to need a sieve or some kind of strainer. What I use is I either get organic soup bones from the store or the butcher. So that's what these are. And you're going to want to start accumulating some vegetable, almost like your vegetable garbage, like the tops of celeries you cut off, or also in here is carrot shavings, the carrot peelings. It could be the stems of parsley. Couple of other goodies we're going to put in there too, which I'll show you as we put those in. This is actually fresh carrot greens, organic carrot greens that I saved and threw in the freezer. So we're going to get those in the pot, and then we'll talk more then. I am going to show you what I normally do. You can go online and get tons of recipes for bone broth. There's all kinds of different ways to do it and how long to boil it for, if you should skim off the fat at the end or not. Here's what I do. I've got all my vegetables in here. You can see the carrot shavings. You can see the celery. There's my carrot greens. There's parsley in there. Also, if you have steak at home, save the bones from the steak. Throw those in the freezer in your Ziploc bag too, because those are going to go in the pot. Here's a little tip for extra flavor. If you have cheese, if you eat really good cheese like aged cow's milk or sheep's milk cheese, there's a rind on it. Save the rind, throw that in your Ziploc bag in the freezer. We're going to put that in. That's going to give it another depth of flavor. And I always throw in a bunch of peppercorns, a couple of bay leaves, and also some garlic that's smashed. And notice that I still have all the I have the skin on the garlic. I just leave that because there's so much nutrients that are in the skins of the vegetables. You just want to leave it on. The one thing I don't ever put in there is any kind of potato. So that's all going to go in the pot. And then you're going to fill up the pot with boiling water. Notice everything is frozen in there. It doesn't matter. And I've boiled water and I'm just pouring it on top. And I'll need to boil a few pots of this water. And you want to fill it up to the top, and then you bring it to a boil on the stove, and then you can keep it covered. You might have to add water as you go because you're going to leave this on the stove at a slow simmer, meaning it's just going to bubble just a little bit, and you're going to leave it at that slow simmer for anywhere from 6 to 8 to 12 to some recipes say 20 hours. And you can stop and take it off the stove, put it in your refrigerator for overnight or when you go to work, and when you come back, put it back on the stove, turn on the heat, bring it up to a simmer, just so it's slightly boiling, and leave it for another few hours. So you can do this in phases for sure. Just remember to put it in the freezer when it's not at that boil. So I'm going to do that now, and then I'll meet you later when we've got the finished product, and I'll show you how to strain it. My research on bone broth started with this book, The GAPS Syndrome. GAPS stands for Gastrointestinal and Psychological Syndrome. This book is written by a medical doctor from the UK who had a severely learning disabled child, and she found that by rebuilding the gut, she was able to turn around the learning disabilities. The gut and the brain intimately connected, your gut and your immune system intimately connected. If your gut's not functioning well, your body's not going to function well. In chapter 2 in here, it's a great chapter to read about how important it is, and she equates the gut to the roots of a tree. You don't see the roots, but if the roots are damaged, the tree will be damaged, and you'll see the damage in the tree. So by using your bone broth, you are healing the roots of your tree, which you can imagine is a project, is not overnight, it is a journey. So expect that. It takes time for your body to rebuild the faulty, unhealthy cells with new, vibrant cells, and for those cells to become the functional cells. This cooked for 12 hours. I then put it in the refrigerator so I could go see patients, and I came back, took it out of the fridge, I put it on the stove for just a little while, just to bring it up to maybe around room temperature, because I want the fats that are in there to be within the broth. Good fats are good. You need good fats. What a lot of people don't know, that every single cell in your body, and there's 40 quadrillion cells, have what's called a lipid membrane. Lipid is fat. Every cell in your body must have fats, and they should be good fats. Your brain and all your nerves, your whole nervous system is surrounded by fats. So if you cut out fats, it's going to affect your cognitive function, your brain, your nerve function. We want to keep all those tip top. We're rebuilding our body from the inside out. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the big chunks that are in here, and I forgot that I had also put some organic chicken bones in here. And so I'm going to just dig around, and I've got this strainer over here, and I'm putting all the solids in the strainer that's in one of my large bowls using my tongs. And yeah, it's messy. It makes a mess. But you just do the best that you can. You also don't have to make this large of a volume. You can do a crock pot size volume. And you just use less of everything. Now you'll have to make it more often, but maybe it would be easier for you. So now that I've got some of the large chunks out, I'm going to pour some of the broth into this strainer. This is a fine strainer, into another large bowl. Okay, there's your broth. There's your bone broth. And so you can see the fats on the surface. That's great. That's what you want. And I've got quart-sized bags. A quart is 4 cups. You're not going to put 4 cups in here because as you freeze it, it will expand and you'll burst the bag open in the freezer. You don't want to do that. So I use a 2-cup measure, and this is about 2 cups. And then I pour it into the bag. And then we'll seal it. Get some of the air out. I'm going to put it on a cookie sheet. I'll do one more so I can show you what that's going to look like. That's about 1 3/4 cups, so I'm going to put another 1/4 cup. Okay, so we now have 2 bags flat on the cookie sheet. I'm gonna A lot of times I'll stack them on a cookie sheet. I'll take them down to my freezer that I have in the garage. The freezer is pretty much empty, so I can just put them on the different shelves in the freezer until they're solid, till they're frozen solid. And then you can just stack them all on one on top of the other in the freezer. One last thing, I do not put salt in the pot that it cooks in. I only salt it after it's done. This is a cup with some broth in there. I put about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. That brings out all the flavors, and don't use table salt. You're going to use Himalayan pink salt or some kind of salt that is, again, good for your body. So, bye for now.